So I remember arriving in Hungary after a super long plane flight. We arrived there, and I remember it just felt so different. It felt so different than where we had come from, and I didn't really know what to expect. I guess one of the first experiences I had was we landed in the airport in Budapest, and I was in a group with 8 other elders that had come with me, and my luggage was the luggage that had gotten lost along the way. And so it was a good thing, actually, because I was also the only one who had prepared and packed things in my carry-on in the event that luggage were to get lost. So I was grateful it was mine. But we got to the airport, and one of the other elders helped me, and we went over to the desk to tell them that, okay, my luggage isn't here. And they didn't speak English, and we didn't speak too much Hungarian at that point. And so we were really just trying to explain ourselves and using hand motions and all of these things. And finally, they gave us a picture of different kinds of luggage, and they kind of motioned for us to point at what it looked like. I'm like, okay, we're communicating, we're getting it. But then also at the same time, I thought, oh my gosh, it hit me, kind of the reality of, here I am, I know a little bit of Hungarian, okay, here we go, and that was probably one of the first impressions that I had there was, okay, this is going to be an adventure. But then we met my mission president and his wife at the airport, and I just loved them immediately, and we went and drove back to the mission home that night. And the next day we went out street contacting with the assistants. And that's something that they do with all the new missionaries, is they kind of take them out to one of the main square areas there in Budapest, and like, okay, you're going to talk to people about the gospel. And we're all a little nervous, and like, okay, we had our phrases we memorized in the MTC and things like that. And so we went out, and I just remember looking at the people and feeling the feeling of the city, and hearing the language and seeing what it looked like, and just kind of being immersed in this Hungarian culture and feeling like, oh my goodness, this is something completely different than I have ever experienced before. And not just that, but also being a missionary, knowing what my purpose would be among these people in this new place, with their history and their culture. And it was a little overwhelming at first, and I remember just really feeling like, how am I going to do this, and how am I going to do this effectively? Because I knew, I loved these people already, and even though, that first day we tried to talk to people on the street, and I experienced for the first time kind of what rejection felt like as a missionary, I just knew that I wanted to be an effective missionary there. And it was kind of a daunting feeling, realizing, I can't completely communicate what I want to say. These people are very different from people that I've interacted with before, just because it is on the other side of the world, in a very different culture. They've experienced very different things in their lives, but it was exciting too. And I think I kind of went back and forth that first week, the first few days, between, okay, this is going to be an adventure, this is exciting, and how am I going to do this? But it really was just an experience, and it was something that I think was good for me to realize I couldn't do it on my own. I couldn't say all that I wanted to in Hungarian yet, and it really did teach me how to rely on the Lord and to just admit to Him, I can't do this without you, and I need help. And I definitely did feel His help, and it was an adventure. I don't really know how else to say it, but it was. And so I definitely felt the Lord's help. And even though the first week and even the first month there, it was a lot of getting used to things and learning about the culture and the customs and the people and the gospel and being a missionary, it was something that I'm so grateful for, because I knew I couldn't do it, and I knew that I needed the Lord's help.
Flying into Budapest, it was January, or no, it wasn't. It was March. And it was right after a big snowstorm, and it was it was snowing a little bit when we touched ground, but we had actually gotten there a little bit later than expected. So we were kind of scrambling to get everyone. I was in a pretty big group. It was a group right after the missionary age change, so pretty big. And as soon as we got to meeting the mission president and his wife, we just had to leave. And so driving through, I was expecting, I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting most of Hungary to be like pretty poor or whatever, but as soon as we started driving, it was pretty built up and stuff. I remember laughing because I saw a McDonald's. I was like, whoa, that's there. And then driving actually through Budapest to the mission home, I was just in awe looking outside. It was kind of harder to see the buildings, but everything was so beautiful. I remember going over one of the big bridges and kind of looking back and just seeing the outline of the Parliament building. And I was just like, where am I? So it was pretty cool. As soon as we got back to the mission home, they kind of just sent us to bed. They fed us a quick dinner, sent us to bed because it was late. Waking up the next morning, a lot of people ask about jet lag or whatever. Honestly, I didn't really experience much jet lag. There was a time period between a bunch of housekeeping items and when we were getting our trainers that they said, oh, you can take like a little nap on the couch. And before that, I was feeling kind of groggy. But after like 45-minute nap, I was fine. Receiving my trainer, everyone looks at all the trainers and they're like, oh, I hope I get that guy. I hope I don't get that guy. I got the guy that I wanted, so I was pretty excited. But he is a wonderful trainer, Elder Aldridge. And then right after that, we had to hop on a train to my new area, and I couldn't really see anything outside because it was also dark. And so I had no idea where I was going. We got off the train, and he said, we have to walk a little bit, walk like a mile through the snow. And I was just like cold and tired, and it seemed like we were going forever. We're just walking through this snow. And then we turn on this little alley, and I'm like, I hope we don't live there. And that's where we live, just like in this little alley. And then we go through the gate. But our apartment was actually a pretty good apartment, so I wasn't too disappointed with that. I didn't really have any preconceived thoughts about what missionary work was going to be like, so everything was just really new to me.
Well, so my flight from France, from Paris to Hungary, then it changed into Hungarian, because before that it was English, and then it was in Hungarian. And so that was like starting to feel real, and the jitters and everything, and there's people around, and you could tell that they were Hungarian by, their speech or even what they were wearing sometimes. But it was cool because right when we get into the airport, the assistants to the president are always there, and they pick you up. And the way I don't know if they still do it, but the way they did it with us is they give you a piece of candy that's, very big in Hungary. It's called the Turo Rudi, and it's just chocolate covered. It's almost like cream cheese, kind of like a weird. It's unique to Hungary, I think. I don't think there's a equivalent here, and they always want to see your reaction because it's just different than anything you've ever experienced, and I loved it, and so it was great, and so that was my first experience of something Hungarian. After that, is just looking around Budapest, and we went the first morning after we get there, we go on a 5-mile run with the president and whoever else wants to go who's in the office, and that was horrible. In the MTC you don't run too much, so you exercise a little bit, but that was fun. And the first 2 weeks of my mission were in a city called Szolnok, and that was not with my trainer. My trainer was on a countrywide tour doing singing. There was a group of missionaries singing and playing instruments. It was called the Restoration Concert. And so they were singing about the Restoration, Joseph Smith. And so I wasn't with my trainer the first 2 weeks. And so I was so I have two trainers. And I loved that area. I loved my first trainer. And then I went to my assigned area. And so I got a lot of different tastes of Hungary and missionaries and everything, within my first couple weeks. And so it was kind of a unique experience, but a lot of fun.